Bam.
I've been trying to figure this out for months.
Yeah.
And in 5 minutes, the answer is inside of me.
That's right.
And it's so powerful putting pen to paper. It's like we tap into this part of our brain, this part of our consciousness, this part of our being that knows.
Yeah.
And it just needs the space to be seen and heard.
Welcome. I'm Alyssa Nobriga, your host of the Healing and Human Potential podcast. A place for you to discover the multidimensionality of what it means to be human. Over the past 20 years, I've trained thousands of coaches in my methodology, leveraging my experience as a former psychotherapist, and I'm here to share with you all the wisdom and insights that I've learned along the way. Each week, I'll share with you life-changing tools to support you in awakening and manifesting your dream life from the inside out. We'll be exploring the intersection between ancient wisdom and modern everyday life, really diving deep into the art of human potential through the lens of psychology, spirituality, and coaching. Let's let the magic unfold. So did you know that on average, we have 60,000 thoughts per day? 60,000. So I'm sure that that's why some people describe their minds as feeling cluttered, or they're struggling with decision fatigue, not knowing what the right thing is to do because there's so much going on in our minds. We can't actually access our inner wisdom to make a decision that feels right for us. That's why I'm excited to talk to my dear friend, Amber Ray. We're going to explore accessing your inner knowing. How do you really tell the difference between intuition and fear? Amber is a best-selling author, speaker, and creative, and she specializes in helping people connect with their inner selves and access their own answers simply by learning to access their own wisdom that already lives inside of them. And so we're going to be sharing tips on how to boost your creativity. I'm actually going to do a coaching session with her here live, and we're going to talk all things emotion so that you can tap into your own inner wisdom and embody that in your daily life. Hi.
Hi.
So happy that you're here.
I'm so happy to be here.
Like, dear sister of mine, so grateful. Like, actually, I don't know if I've ever told you, your book, Wonder Over Worry, was, I think, one of the only books that I finished, and I didn't even know you at the time, of a friend's book. It wasn't like an Eckhart Tolle or, a spiritual book. And I just love your expression, your writing, your heart. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you. I didn't know that.
I
love that.
I finished it. It was such a good read. It was so chock full with insights, and it's very aligned with the way that I think of things as well. And I know one of the things you explore and talk about is, how do you know the difference between intuition and fear? And a big part of your work is tuning into your intuition. Can you share with us, how do you even explore and know the difference? Because this is a topic that people ask a lot.
Yes, I love this question so much. And people come to me all the time and say, I'm feeling hesitation or I'm feeling uncertainty about something. And I don't know, I kind of have this feeling, but where do I know where that's coming from?
Yeah.
And for me, even recently I was making a decision about, do I commit to this thing this spring? And I was even feeling that hesitation and uncertainty. And really what I had to do was take a step back and really pay attention to the physical sensations. And so intuition to me is that deep, quiet, calm, still knowing.
Yeah.
And anxiety or fear is going to be that very racy, kind of loud, kind of chatty, frantic, and nervous and frantic part of us that ultimately is trying to protect us and keep us safe, but also is not necessarily the place that we want to make decisions from. And so even with this decision that I was trying to make about this commitment this spring, when I took a step back, I noticed it was all a lot of loud chatter. And it wasn't coming from that place of stillness and that place of quiet.
Yeah. Yeah. And as you're talking, one thing that I would imagine would be helpful is to meet the fear so that you can hear the wisdom underneath it.
Absolutely.
But are there like practical things that you've done in your world to help you quiet the voice of fear or be able to hear your intuition or cultivate it more, trust in it?
So I love, feelings are messengers.
Yeah.
And I think they are all here trying to bring us to wholeness and healing and wisdom and insight. And so fear too, I love to dialogue with my emotions. So I will be like, hey, fear, I see you. I'm not going to ignore you. I'm not going to push you away. I'm not going to avoid or suppress you, which I've done plenty of in my life.
Yeah.
But I'm actually, let's have a conversation. Like, let me know what's going on. What are you trying to tell me? And sometimes this is just closing my eyes and imagining that fear is sitting across from me, like as if fear was sitting in the chair where you are. and saying, you know, what is it that you're trying to tell me? And then fear, I may close my eyes and fear may speak. Or sometimes I can grab my journal and write down like, hey, fear, what do you need me to know?
Yeah.
And then I hand fear the microphone and I imagine it is speaking to me through the page.
Yeah.
And oftentimes fear will just be like, oh, I just really want this to go well. Or, you know, I just want to make sure, you know, fear is trying to, again, protect and keep me safe.
Yeah.
And so, but the thing is that anytime we're doing anything meaningful or novel or interesting, we're going to touch that fear part of us because that's the unknown and fear hates the unknown. And so, but we can calm our fear by giving it space to feel seen and heard.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that you're pointing out, there's two things that I teach on and I love, and this is where our work really overlaps from different angles. When we don't identify with something, it's a lot easier to change it. So there's separateness between you and a feeling, or you and your inner critic, like that voice. I know, you know, I used to name mine Scar from The Lion King so that I could see it and not identify with it, which is really helpful. And really one of the biggest gifts that I had in my own spiritual experience was realizing that I'm not the voice in my head, realizing that that's just a story and I can see it, I'm prior to it. So the same is true for fear or criticism. And so not identifying is really helpful. The second thing is understanding that everything that we're doing is trying to help us in some way, but it's misunderstood or it's not actually effective. So we don't need to judge it, right?
Yes.
And so what you're doing so brilliantly with fear is to say, let me just sit down with you energetically and really hear you, because you're a part of me that's been disenfranchised and I can just hear the wisdom. When I'm not judging it, I hear the wisdom inside of it. You know, one of the ways that this can show up with criticism is like, so for example, I used to have a fierce inner critic. I used to listen to CDs, books on CDs. This is before podcasts and all the digital things, just to drown out my inner critic because it was so loud and I didn't have the tools yet. And so when I realized that criticism was just trying to protect me, it was just trying to make sure I was safe by saying, here's all the ways you could do better next time, but it actually paralyzed me. Then I realized that I can be compassionate with the critic and maybe come up with like, take out the intention of doing better, but upgrade the method, right? So it's like, okay, if I want to do better, I get an accountability partner. And why don't I just test it out for one day or 1 week? Being kind with myself, is compassion actually productive? And so giving people a sense of like being able to try that, I think is really helpful. So what you are sharing, I just want to highlight the two things, which is don't identify and find how it's trying to serve you. Thank it. And then upgrade the approach. And I know that you have so much brilliance on inner exploration. A big part of my work is like the inner game and how that affects the outer game. And you have so many insights and nuggets that you've explored out of your own curiosity that you've helped, I think, illuminate for a lot of people their own wisdom. And there's universal wisdom, but you tapping into yours, I think you share it so beautifully in your books and in your social media posts. I'm curious if you've been surprised by your relationship with some of your feelings and what they've revealed to you. So like you've got these graphics online. You know, like what are some of those that either surprised you or have been really helpful for people that maybe they didn't see it that way until they've seen your work?
You know, I think all of it has been surprising to me in terms of the work and sharing the work, because it all started as a way for me to make sense of my own inner world. So I wasn't drawing to create things for an audience. I was drawing to make sense of myself. And, you know, it was such a surprise that I thought, oh, let me just put this out there and see how people respond to it. It was a big surprise to me that it actually resonated. And I think I always say your mess is your message. I know I'm not the only one to say that. Other people have said that too, but it's true. By you know, taking my own work and allowing people into that process, I think it has them feel less alone and has them feel like they're, you know, hearing from a person they can relate to who's actually willing to share the more scary, vulnerable, exposed parts. And so, you know, that the origin of anything that I've created was just mostly started in my own journal as a way for me to understand myself.
That's beautiful. And I, you know, like, but have there been specific ones that so for example, like in the therapeutic world, Anger is feedback that a boundary's been crossed.
Yes.
So it's like, oh, I didn't like change our relationship with feelings by having an insight, because you have so many brilliant nuggets. And I'm just curious if there are a few that you can share.
Anger, boundary has been crossed. Envy is illuminating inspiration. And so, for many years, I felt envious of anyone who published a book before I got my own book deal. I'm like, oh, gosh, another author, another person writing a book. And I was like, all right, inner part, jealous, envious part inside of me, what's going on? And then realizing, oh, that's because I really want that. And so envy just illuminates unrealized potential within us. And if we can shift our envy away from them back to us.
That's right.
And say, okay, wait, so that's important to me. What's my next step?
Good.
That's way, that envy can be so useful.
Yeah.
Sadness. It's interesting. I remember this many years ago, but on my 30th birthday, I felt sad and I wrote to Sadness, and Sadness said, "You're playing small."
Ooh.
And that's what I said. I was like, "Woo, okay, you're playing small and I'm sick of it. And I need you to step up." And so that was a surprise too. So these, again, and I think there are like anger, typically boundary crossed. Some of these have specific messages, but I also think that emotions can have different messages for each of us, which is why we get to be in the inquiry of what are you trying to tell me? I always say, like, apply the 3 C's. So curiosity, compassion, and courage. Curiosity is, okay, why are you here? And I'm not going to push you away or be afraid of you, but oh, okay, you're curious. I wonder why I'm feeling envious or angry or anxious or whatever it is, uncomfortable. I wonder why. And then courage is okay, let me go there. Let me be willing to find out. And compassion, of course, is just having kindness for whatever shows up, not judging it, as you mentioned earlier.
Compassion is productive. I promise. People just test it. It's changing the world and changing the game.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. And it's interesting because I knew when I read your book that there were parallels with the way that we think in Orient. And as you're sharing the 3 C's, I'm like, well, my methodology is 3 A's. So awareness, acceptance, and aligned action. So Beautiful. It's the very, curiosity brings to more awareness. Acceptance is compassion. And then aligned action is the courage. So it's like, okay, we're reading the same book of life. It's beautiful. And a big part of my work in this podcast is talking about worthiness. And you were so open and honest and courageous about your own journey. And when I've been playing with worthiness, kind of my recent discoveries and understanding about it is that there are so many nuggets and gems within each of our feelings when we actually drop in to get curious and listen, which I love that playing small brought, or sadness brought playing small. Like we would know, it's not the conscious mind. We got to drop in and really explore and find out what it really is about. But with unworthiness, I think it's a big core. It's like the root of a lot of other problems that we haven't seen. And what I've recently been exploring is that underneath, if I don't feel worthy, then I don't feel like I belong. And if I don't feel like I belong, then I won't survive. And so it kind of roots back to survival tactics. And I think evolutionarily speaking, we need each other to survive. So we have to be compassionate with ourselves because it's not just our current self, it's our lineage. It's years of evolution that is programmed inside of us, because if we're not keeping up with the tribe, then we're going to be the dead weight and get left behind if we're not accepted and loved. And so these things go deeper than I think we're always, aware of. And yet psychologically, it really creates stories in our own conditioning. So our personal and collective self. So with unworthiness, I'm curious your own journey with it. Like, have you experienced or found the root of where it came from in your own life story or how it's played out in relationships?
Yeah. Unworthiness was the thing for me.
Me too. Yeah.
And it was belonging. It's interesting when you said that. I was like, oh, I've never actually labeled belonging as the root. Because for me, it was, am I good enough? Am I lovable? And so it was all around really lovability.
Yeah.
But ultimately that's belonging.
Safety, belonging, and then safety.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and thinking if I'm not lovable, they'll leave and I will be left alone and I will die.
Yeah.
And, I think the root for me, I'm writing a memoir about love right now, which is ultimately why I made certain decisions around love in my life, which of course the root were feelings of unlovability as a child. And so I am deep and I am deep in these childhood stories. But, ultimately my father died. It got in a severe car accident when I was a young kid. I had a very kind of chaotic and turbulent childhood where love my mom to death, wonderful woman, had me very young, single mother, but very preoccupied with her life. And, I love to bring awareness to what happened in childhood, not to point fingers and blame.
That's right.
Not to say, oh, it's her fault that I didn't feel, my mom's fault that I didn't feel lovable, but rather just to have an accurate picture of the reality. Because for a long time, I created great stories to protect myself and to protect other people.
Give me an example.
My mom is my best friend. My childhood was great. My dad's death didn't affect me. Kind of like everything was fine. I'm good. I as a child very much was like, I'm good. I will take care of things. I was I'm going to step up and take responsibility. I'm going to be okay.
Yeah. Which is a great safety strategy.
Way
better than other ones that we could have chosen, right? So,
Totally.
And probably has helped you also be successful in the world that you are now. And yet there's shadow to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, but I think I didn't always look accurately at my story. And so a big part of my work has been to just look at it accurately, but again, without blame or judgment or pointing fingers, just so I can have compassion for my little girl.
Yes.
Who, had unmet needs or who created stories that daddy left and it's because I'm not enough to stay for. And, I've been doing EMDR and all kinds of things and going back to these core memories of little me and, the moment seeing my dad leave or talking to him on the phone right before he got into this car accident and me making that mean in those moments that this is because I'm not worthy or lovable. I'm not worthy to stay for, which then led to all kinds of, as a young adult, it became, okay, well, I'm going to choose relationships that are safe, where I know the other won't leave. I'm not even going to let myself really choose desire because if I choose desire, that's actually scary and risky. So this led me to choose relationships where desire felt unsafe. Desire felt risky because that was a place where if I couldn't measure up, if I wasn't enough, then again, I could be abandoned or, lose love.
Yeah.
And so it, being able to look at these moments in childhood, have compassion for my little girl and also be able to make different decisions. So I'm not leading from my wounds. I'm leading from my wisdom.
Right.
And leading more from the scar.
And I think it's so important. I know from my own journey with looking back and just having an honest assessment of my childhood, there were parts of me that didn't want to honor my anger at my parents out of trying to protect them, even if they weren't in a therapeutic room. I was protecting my parents by not, and it was just, I had a great upbringing and no parent could have been there for all of our needs or been perfect. So it's part of my healing journey also is about honoring my truth from childhood or that perspective so that the anger or the hurt or the stories can come up and be cleared with, and then compassion, because you can't actually heal something if you don't express the honest feeling first.
Absolutely.
A lot of people try to bypass to feel like forgiveness, it's fine. We were doing the best we knew how.
Yeah.
But to really genuinely express the pain or the hurt or the frustration or sadness or anger, whatever it is, and then bring compassion to it is really important. So I love your ability to not only see, but allow yourself your honest experience through your little one's perspective.
Yeah. And it's, my growth edge even now is that I still feel anger and I'm honoring it and letting myself feel it in moments.
Yeah.
And I'll feel the anger rise again. I'm like, okay, let it move through.
Yeah.
But it's not because then I can be sharp with my mom.
Yeah.
Or kind of get a little with her. And I'm learning, okay, how do I feel my anger and disappointment and sadness?
Yeah.
While also being able to hold compassion for her and have a healthy relationship with her today. Because ultimately I'm feeling anger about things that happened a very long time ago.
Yeah.
And she's like, come on, can we move past this?
Totally. And that's our job, right?
Yeah.
Like that's not even our parents' job anymore now that we're older.
Exactly.
And so just the willingness to prioritize that, I think, is so important and actually is what shifts then every other relationship we have as a result. Imagine having a fulfilling career doing what you love, working from anywhere in the world, setting your own hours while making good money and a big impact. If that lights you up, then I'm super excited to share with you today's sponsor, the Institute for Coaching Mastery. This is my robust, accredited year-long certification program for new or seasoned coaches, therapists, leaders, and those just looking to up-level their life in a profound way. We have an amazing community of students from all around the world who have really started their journey to expand with us both personally and professionally. And this experience is designed to give you the 3 things that you need to thrive. So first, you have all of the tools and support you need to move past what's been holding you back so that you can completely change the trajectory of your life. And then you learn how to masterfully and confidently facilitate transformation with your clients or your team, regardless of your niche. If you want to do health, business, relationship, or you just have no idea yet, we hold your hand through that. And then lastly, you'll receive my 6-figure and beyond signature roadmap that's customizable to meet you wherever you are. So whether you want to do high ticket sales, online marketing, or you just want to hit 6 figures without ever needing to go on social media, we've got you covered. And this truly is the most rewarding work in the world. We have new students now who have a waitlist of dream clients in under a year. We also have seasoned students who are doing $80,000 months. And this is really about creating lasting transformation from the inside out so that you can share your gifts and serve the world in all the ways that you're called to. And I've seen firsthand the power of what happens when you have the community to collaborate with, but you also have the right tools and resources to really thrive. And so whether you want to do your own personal development, you're wanting to become a coach, or you're just looking for a cutting edge approach to really grow your business, the Institute for Coaching Mastery is for you. You are held every single step of the way. And so if you want to get behind the scenes access to the Institute with 3 proven transformational tools for free to help you create the business and life you love, all you have to do is go to alyssanobriga.com/tools. Or you can find us at alyssanobriga.com/apply now to see all the details and apply today. And so I'm curious, and if this happens, then we can explore it, but like you have so much emotional mastery and intelligence that I think it would be a gift to allow people to see your inner exploration, around something that you're working through or just chewing on or kind of combing through in your own consciousness. Is there something that's alive or up for you?
I mean, we can do what I just brought up, which is how do I feel the anger that still arises from the past without taking it out on the person, taking it out on my mom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mom, this one's for you.
Yeah. if she ever hears it. Yeah. And so when you kind of just close your eyes and you just tune in to whatever got activated as you were talking about your anger towards your mom, notice what is alive in your body right now.
Sensations in my chest, around my heart.
Yeah. And so as you bring your awareness into your heart, into those sensations, just notice if this is familiar or new.
It's both, actually. It's circumstantially new, but also familiar.
Yeah. And this familiar part, how old does this part feel?
Probably about 9.
Yeah. And you see any images in your mind? Yeah. What do you see?
I see a little girl who's hanging. Oh boy, who's hanging signs around the house of. I've created an anti-smoking campaign, and I'm hanging posters around my house showing a smoker's lungs and a child of a smoker's lungs to try and get my mom to quit smoking.
Yeah, really resourceful. Yeah. And so just tuning into her, see what she wants to say. If she had permission to know that she's safe in this moment, she doesn't need to edit any part of her. What does she feel at that time?
I think she feels shame, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Shame and a little bit of kind of like, I'm an independent woman. I'm going to do what I want.
Yeah.
So it's both.
Okay, good.
It's so kind of like, don't tell me what to do.
Yeah. Oh, good. I like her sassiness.
Oh yeah. There's sassiness.
Oh yeah. So the protector part is sassy. She learned to be independent to get her needs met, but underneath that is the vulnerability of shame that she's protecting. So we're going to thank that protector part to say, I see you. I love how you show up. And just to kind of see if we can touch in on that shame. Notice where that is in your body.
Wait, is this, so I was actually, were you having me put myself in my mom's shoes and imagine how she was feeling?
No.
Okay, that's how I assumed my mom was feeling.
Oh, okay.
I, for whatever reason, went into her.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Very telling of another pattern that we can talk about another time.
Let me focus on her emotional experience and what she might be feeling.
But that's insightful in and of itself, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because in some ways we look to protect our parents so that we're okay, because we need them for survival.
Right.
And so I really hear that she really abandoned herself to make sure that her mom was okay.
Yeah. Whereas I'm feeling scared on the inside and determined on the outside.
Okay. So if we just...
I'm going to solve this.
I mean, your fists are like, yes, they're together. And I love her. I just want her to know how brilliant and how strong and resourceful and resilient she is. And I'm just curious about this one that's scared. What does she say? If she were to just talk freely, authentically, in present tense from the fear.
Will she be well enough to take care of me?
Yeah. And what I'm feeling.
And what I'm feeling is sadness.
And is it okay for her to feel sad right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. And where's that in your body?
Around the heart.
Yeah. So you just breathe into that space around your heart without any agenda. We're not trying to get rid of it. We're just saying, I see you. It's totally okay to be sad. And just to allow it fully, even opening the back of your heart. Yeah. And just opening the back of your heart, just breathing into it. Some part of her likes to feel seen and that there's space for her. And so if you were to I want to just ask her, what did she need in that moment? Is there someone that she would have loved to bring into this scene? And it can be your mom and her more resourceful self. It can be someone else, a character.
Me today goes in and says, I know you're really scared and you want mom to be okay, but you're okay.
Yeah.
And, it's really hard that she doesn't want to change or, stop smoking.
Yeah.
Or stop these behaviors. And I'm really sorry that sucks. And I understand that's disappointing.
Yeah. Just breathe into that energy. And just checking in with your 9-year-old if she received that or if she has anything in response.
She relaxed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just feeling acknowledged and seen had her relax. I'm like, I've got you. We're hugging now.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. She seems really open. And can you let her know that she doesn't need to be any different than the way that she is? And that you're there for her anytime she needs you.
She's very relieved.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I can sit down. I can put the stapler down.
Yeah.
Or the tape.
Yeah. 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 And let's do a few compassionate self-forgivenesses, because there's some misunderstandings that she bought into that I think we can let go of in support of your current self. So how this goes is I forgive myself for buying into the misunderstanding, and then we'll fill in the blank together. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're aware of a misunderstanding, I'll let you start. And if not, I'll lead.
So I forgive myself
for buying into the misunderstanding.
Buying into the misunderstanding that I need to fix this.
Yeah. The truth is,
there's nothing for me to fix.
That's right. There's a part that wants tending to, but nothing to fix.
Mm-hmm.
And what about a judgment of your mom or the way that she is?
Yeah, I forgive myself for buying into, what is it?
The misunderstanding.
Buying into the misunderstanding that she should be different.
Mm-hmm. She should stop smoking.
She should stop smoking.
Mm-hmm. Truth is,
she can do what she wants.
Yeah.
She's her own woman.
Yeah.
Autonomous being.
Mm-hmm. And what about the part of you that is trying to manage her so that your needs are met? So innocent, right?
Mm-hmm.
I forgive myself.
Forgive myself.
For buying into the misunderstanding.
Buying into the misunderstanding.
That I needed her to be okay for me to be okay.
That I needed her to be okay for me to be okay.
Of course I thought that. She's my mom. She's a provider. I'm learning differently now. Yeah. It's like you're really learning to in-source your own okayness and go back to these memories to really offer yourself what you needed then now.
Mm-hmm.
And just breathing into your heart space. And then just notice from here what you want to be doing differently that's courageous, that's in alignment. And how could that show up for you to ground this into your life today?
Radical acceptance of her.
Yeah.
Continuing to source okayness from within.
Yeah.
Because I still notice moments where it's like,
yeah.
Is she going to be okay? Will I be okay?
Uh-huh.
It's like, oh, little girl.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So what I hear is like when you have a dynamic with your mom, taking a pause. I love toilet temples because that's like a pause. You can just go to the bathroom and just put your hand on your heart and your belly and just let her know that she's okay.
And then not instigating. I can be a little detective instigator.
Yeah.
And so just kind of relaxing into what is.
Yeah. And even just thanking the instigator.
Yeah.
Because that part's just rebellious and trying to protect you in the best way it's known how.
Mm-hmm.
But it's trying to help you avoid the feeling of sadness or frustration, anger. So even thanking that part.
Yeah. And then last, honor and feel the anger, disappointment, and sadness as it arises.
That's right.
Let it continue to move through.
That's right. Yeah. Feeling it as a sensation, not a story.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's when it moves through the body. So just like breathing into that little one, letting her know you're here, that anytime she needs you, she's got you.
She's reading now.
Okay. She's good. Oh, she's doing her favorite thing. Yeah. So good, Amber. I love how open you are. It's so nice just to your honest exploration. What feels different now?
I feel very relaxed.
Yeah.
And kind of high.
Yeah. High on your own supply.
Tingly.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is literally, now it's like we get to do things differently. We don't need to change and manage mom to be different.
Yeah.
Because we can in-source that within ourselves. And most of us nobody learned these things growing up, right?
Yeah.
So we have the space to do that now for those parts of us. And I know you also talk to and teach about the feelings. Is it the 2-step method of feelings?
Oh, the feelings method.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is this? Share this with us.
Yeah. So I touched on it a little bit earlier when we were talking about fear, but if I am navigating a challenging emotion, I will bring that forward and kind of call it in. So let's say it's overwhelm or anxiety or envy.
Yeah.
I will close my eyes and imagine it's in a chair across from me, kind of the 2 chairs exercise, and really sit with the emotion. Imagine it's there. And sometimes that emotion will take form, or it will be a shape, or I'll start to see a person or something appear, but it's just sitting with it and allowing the sensations to be present.
Good.
And then also by, imagining it across from me, it creates this healthy distance so I can move into witness consciousness.
Yes.
And then when I'm feeling settled there, that's when I'll begin, okay, I see you. What is it that you're trying to tell me? What is it that you want me to know?
Yeah.
And sometimes that's just a visual exercise. And sometimes, again, I grab pen and paper and explore that a bit more. And once, fear tells me whatever fear needs to tell me, or anxiety says, that's not the right path. I think you're moving too fast. I think you're rushing this. And I'm sorry, but I'm ringing the alarm bell trying to get your attention because it's not aligned, which often anxiety might be trying to alert me to. Once that part of me is expressed, then I call in support, which is step 2.
Yeah.
And this is, okay, intuition, future self, inner child. What's the part of me, or courage or curiosity? What's the part of me that I want to tap into right now and really kind of allow to embody? Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. And so again, imagine that, let's say my intuition is sitting across from me. Intuition, I see you. Thank you for being here. Like, how can we work together? How can we, navigate this situation? Or what is it that you want me to know? It depends. The question depends on the moment. And then allowing that part of me, again, to express itself.
It's beautiful.
And then I'll imagine for the part of me I want to call in that there's kind of a moment where we merge. And there's so intuition might be sitting across from me, and then it's like intuition comes into my heart. And that is it's just this like somatic embodiment that happens where I'm like, okay, and that is my course of action.
Yes.
So it's like allowing the emotion to be expressed so that I can take aligned action.
That's right. That's right. And I love so much about first disidentifying with it. So you're not enmeshed thinking that I am anxiety or I am overwhelmed, because then it's hard to change it if we're identified.
Yeah.
But so there's a 2-step where you're not identifying with it, and then you're allowing it to, because everything wants to be accepted. All parts of us and other people want to be accepted. Otherwise they defend.
Yeah.
And so the more we can create space to say yes to them, they start to soften, they start to integrate. And then I also hear whatever's intuitively available, then you also gestalt and talk with that part to allow it to reveal to you its own wisdom. And that's my experience too. It's like even these things that we judge actually holds the key to what we deeply desire when they're honestly allowed to express.
Yes.
So it's like even sadness. I mean, my journey with unworthiness is I finally stopped trying to outrun it by trying to succeed my way beyond it. Enlightenment, success, all the ways that we try to find approval in the world. I finally just stopped to feel unworthiness. And ironically, it opened me in my wholeness to my worthiness. So it was like the last place I would be thinking to look. And I love that this seems to be a theme in this conversation, because these things that are, I love Inside Out movie. It's like things that are bad. There's another one coming.
I know. I'm so excited.
We geek out on this stuff. I love it. I'm like, there's a therapist behind that movie. But
the new character's anxiety.
Oh yeah, I know, exactly. Yeah. And then we're going to continue evolving as a species through movies, which is so important. And then the kids have another language of like, oh, anxiety is playing a key role. It's not bad. I don't need to judge or identify that I'm anxious. No, anxiety is present. And how can I listen to anxiety? How do I soften with it and actually reveal the wisdom within it because of that? And I know that journaling is a big tool for you. It's huge tool. Medicine. Yeah. And I imagine that there's different prompts and different ways to use journaling to evoke and not only reflect and hear our own wisdom, but to deepen in it. And I love powerful questions also to help evoke our own wisdom. And so in the therapeutic world, there's something called freeform writing, where you just write with a pen and paper, minimum of 10 minutes, get it out. Do not reread it. I know you know this process, but don't reread it. So if you're feeling anxious, just journal, I feel, and then just let's start it coming up. And then I would say, burn it or throw it away. Don't reread it. And then offer yourself compassion the way you just did for almost at least the same amount of time that you expressed it. Because then that's the healing alchemy. But I know that journaling is a big tool for you. Can you share with us some journaling prompts or journaling exercises? You have an incredible new journal out, the Feelings Journal, which I'm so excited about. Can you share with us some of your processes or nuggets to support others?
Sure. I mean, I've been journaling since I was a kid, and it's the tool that helps me really clear the noise in my mind, get distance from it so that I can tap into knowing and wisdom.
Yeah.
And so exactly like what you just said, it's sometimes journaling for me is just, I need to get to the page and get this out, stream of consciousness. And then sometimes it's a bit more, intentional and prompted. Some of my favorite prompts, you asked me this earlier, is what's alive in me?
Yeah.
What truth am I avoiding and why?
Ooh, let's stop with that one. What truth am I avoiding and why?
That question rocked me for a couple of years until I finally wrote the truth.
Oh, damn. I know my spiritual teacher says, what do I know that I don't want to know?
That's good.
It's it's like the same question, just a backdoor in. It's good. Okay.
Oh, I'm gonna borrow that one.
Yeah.
What do I know that I don't want to know? Oof, love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a powerful
I think a lot of people avoid until they realize that it just postpones. I mean, if it was a great idea, I'd be all for it. It just doesn't work. Right. It just keeps it with us. So I don't think people really realize when they feel their emotions, it lightens the load. And that's so I created the journal. It's actually, so every emotion has its own page. Yeah.
And every emotion has specific prompts for that emotion. And so we talked about this earlier, but like fear, there's a message from fear of why fear might be showing up, or anger, why is it showing up? And then there are prompts to help you kind of meet you in that emotion. So this journal was designed to kind of give you this real-time emotional support to help you navigate. And like you said, give space, let them be seen so that you can feel lighter. I've been leading these journaling workshops and, people come in kind of like, I don't think this is going to work for me.
Yeah.
And then they're like, wow, in 5 minutes, I've been trying to figure this out for months.
Yeah.
And in 5 minutes, the answer is inside of me.
That's right.
And it's, it's so powerful putting pen to paper. It's like we tap into this part of our brain, this part of our consciousness, this part of our being that knows.
Yeah.
And it just needs the space to be seen and heard.
Yeah. And this is why it's really, we're accessing the subconscious and unconscious through the journaling, because that's why if sadness is saying you're playing small, it's like the conscious mind's like, wait, what? And that's usually when you're on to the right track, because it's not from the conscious mind. Yeah. And 95% of our behavior change is from the subconscious. And so to be able to access it through journaling is fantastic, because you're right. We have our own answers. So give us like an example of something that we can play with in the book, and we'll put a link below for people to get this too.
Like a specific prompt or technique. Okay. So one of my favorites, and we've touched on this a bit, but is pick the emotion that you're challenged by right now. Anxiety, fear, overwhelm, uncertainty, whatever it is. And write, hey, fear, it's me. I'm listening. What do you want me to know? Yeah. So, hey, emotion, it's me. Write your name. Yeah. So like, hey, fear, it's Amber. I'm listening. What do you want me to know? And just allow that emotion to express itself. So you hand the emotion a microphone, let it speak to you on the page. Yeah. I'm telling you, I have had thousands of people write to me saying how impactful this exercise of giving their emotion a microphone is. Yeah. And there's always like, I never thought this would work for me, or I felt so much resistance going into this exercise. What would the anxiety know? Or like, can I really allow that part of me to speak on the page? Yeah. And just give it a little space and see what comes up. Yeah. And it's usually the things that we haven't actually gotten to know that offer us more wisdom than we realize. Absolutely. And so just having the courage and the curiosity and the willingness to explore it. Yeah. And then the compassion for what comes up. And the compassion for what comes up. That's right. And I would imagine that, some people might say, I feel resistant, but then just journal resistance. Yes, exactly. That's the starting place. Exactly. Or I feel like, hey, somebody read my journal in the past. I'm scared to write. Just write, I'm scared. Like really be with that part. Whatever is coming up gets to be put on paper. It's the doorway. Yes. That's right. Let whatever is the resistance be the doorway. Yes. Whatever the fear is. A woman wrote to me recently and said, I'm terrified to write in this journal because I'm afraid someone's going to read it. And I said, literally go to the page and write, I'm scared to write in this journal because I'm afraid someone's going to read it. Yeah. What does that part of me need to know? Yeah, because resistance wants you to dart instead of actually keep going, but just lean into resistance, and that's where you get the gold. Yeah. And another thing that I think is really powerful for people to know is to support the defense. This is in Hakomi psychotherapy, which I learned through doing my somatic work, which I love the most. And it's called support the defense. So if somebody wants to hide, when I was a therapist, even as a coach, if
if I'm working with somebody and they're wanting to, we've got this push-pull. I want to grow my business, but I'm afraid of being seen, right? We've got this push-pull. Giving somebody space to actually let that part that wants to hide full permission to be here. I've given a friend, like somebody that is now a friend, was a client. I gave her a blanket and I just was like, it's okay to hide. And then that part just gets to just cry. Maybe it takes a minute or two. And then it's like, okay, I'm ready. Yeah. I'm ready to share, but it just needs to be honored. And I think we keep coming back to that. It's like the honesty and the honoring of all of it and the willingness to actually face it opens us. And the other side of a lot of this healing work, healing of the unconscious, opens us to creativity.
Absolutely.
So share with us about, like, if we want to access more creativity in our lives.
Well, I'll tell a story.
Yeah.
So when I was writing my first book, Choose Wonder Over Worry, I was like, okay, I'm going to go to Bali.
Yeah.
So I got my book deal. My publisher said to me, can you write this book in 3 months? And my initial reaction was absolutely not. But the title of my book was Choose Wonder Over Worry. Ooh. So I said, I wonder how I can write this in 3 months. And yes, I will.
Good for you.
And so I went to Bali. And I was like, I'm going to go into a place where I feel so in my body and can just, flow.
Yeah.
And I was up at 6:30 every morning writing this book, but trying to write this book. But all of these different parts of me started to really show up. The perfectionist thought nothing was good enough. My imposter was saying, who the hell are you to write this? Yeah. The anxious part of me, oh my God, are we going to do this in enough time? Do we have time? You didn't write this many words today. It was just all coming up. Yeah. And I was just, what do I do with this? How do I even? And so, of course, I had to listen and honor and meet these parts of me and I did all of that. And then I had an insight, which was, choosing wonder over worry. To do that, so much worry comes up.
Yeah.
And so why don't I bring to life all of these different worried parts of us and actually structure the entire book as a journey of someone meeting perfectionism, meeting unworthiness, meeting unlovability, meeting the imposter, meeting anxiety. Yeah. And so the characters that I met in the process of writing the book formed the structure of the book and the journey that I would take the reader on.
Wow.
Because here I was choosing wonder over worry. Yep. I was acting on it. And this is what was happening when I was like going after, I ultimately want people, it was like, I want you to unlock your full potential. And I want you to, what is the dream that is most meaningful to you? What is the path that will fulfill you so deeply? Well, of course, worry and fear and anxiety and doubt, because we're in this unknown territory, they're going to come out to play. Yeah. And so I thought, what better way to design this journey than through having to move through all of those like scary and uncomfortable parts?
I mean, you literally took the reader on a journey of your own exploration.
Exactly.
And I think that's what kind of qualifies us to be able to speak to something, right? Because we may have an intention for our lives and then we get schooled to really live into that intention. And my experience is anytime we say yes to the calling, it calls us forward. Yeah. And all the things that have held us back until that point come up to be seen and integrated and accepted. Yeah. And the same blocks that held us back at one level come up at the next level. But when we have the tools, journaling, emotional mastery, all the inner work, it makes it easier to keep accelerating and to keep going. It doesn't take us out of the game so much because these parts soften. Yeah. And I also know, there's time to go deep into our healing journey. And then there's some times where if we go so deep, it can feel out of balance where it's like, all I'm doing is healing.
Right.
Right. So it's like, I think there's a balance between it because, in the lens of psychotherapy, I think the shadow is always healing the past. Yeah. And then coaching is beautiful also, but the shadow is always achieving to a future.
Right.
And so having the foundation be presence, and I love Bali so much. And just to have that space to not avoid, not run away from, to just be courageous and willing to look and integrate those, then we can speak to it and share. Not only our lives get better and easier, but then we can speak to it more easily with others.
Yeah. So my own stuff became the material of the book. And I think often, like when I think of works of art that resonate so deeply with me, they're infused with that vulnerability. Yeah. They're infused with that story of truth. Yeah. Like I want to know, remember I went to a workshop with Cheryl Strayed and she at one point said on stage, I really want you to like me.
Oh.
And it, you could tell she was a little nervous. And I remember thinking, Cheryl Strayed's nervous? Like,
Yeah.
Here I am, just putting this author that I love on a pedestal. But, I loved in that moment of her letting us see her.
Yeah.
And I think even in that moment, it allowed everyone in the audience to kind of soften. Because I think all of us were like, oh my God, we get to be here. And like, is this, we all wanted it to, and it just allowed, that honest expression allows everyone to kind of be honest themselves. And so it encouraged vulnerability too.
Yeah. What would you say to somebody that wants to be more vulnerable and is scared about being judged, so they pretend or don't fully share themselves?
Yeah, I would start by connecting with the part of them that's, afraid of being judged and saying, again, I see you. Hi.
Yeah.
Of course. And getting curious about, okay, where does that come from? Can I think of kind of what you guided me through? Can I think of a moment when I was younger where I was judged for being honest or vulnerable? And again, connecting with that little part and having compassion for that little part. And then I think there's a bit of the awareness and acceptance that you say, but then I think it would be then, okay, start small. Can you invite maybe 5 friends over and that you feel really safe with, and share, maybe you want to share a story or a poem or a song or whatever it is, that expression that feels vulnerable to you. I would start in a small space that you can feel safe in, so that you can build the muscle of safety.
Yeah.
And then once that feels good and you realize there's a positive feedback loop, you're like, okay, I can do this. Okay, maybe now I can write about this, or, whatever that progression is for you. It's really identifying what is that space of safety that you can create to begin to play in meeting the edge.
Yeah, right. Because life's a mirror. So as we learn to accept that part of us that's scared of being seen, it's also like, okay, what am I afraid that they will think? And how do I think of myself that way, or where did it root from? And then how can I forgive or heal or let go of that? Because, even as we're talking, I'm guiding myself as we're talking. I'm like, oh yeah, middle school was really rough for me. I was bullied in middle school, and where I felt like I was just myself and authentic and shining. And then it felt like the rug got pulled out from under me without kind of being blindsided. And so some of the strategies that my ego used to protect me was always be aware of what other people are thinking, so that then I can create safety. But then that creates disconnection with authenticity. And so going back to these original moments and memories to let them integrate into our nervous system, and part of my methodology is 5 levels of change, 5 levels of acceptance. So breathing into it somatically. So just allowing the energy to be here, because we don't need to know the story. Mentally questioning, like I've gone back to middle school and really was in the hallways and being like, was I not safe? Because there was a lot of physical threat of being beat up for about a year and a half. So when I went back, I'm in the hallways and I'm looking again, I was like, no, other than what I'm thinking and believing, I was safe. And then, so really questioning the stories that then cascaded into my life into different patterns. And then emotionally being with that part, like we just have doing here, as well as unconsciously, what do I fear would happen if I weren't worried about what other people thought of me? That helps. It's a really powerful question to help access the unconscious. What do I fear would happen if I stopped doing this thing that I really don't think I want, but I'm still doing? Right. So anytime, every part of us is doing something with the intention that it's helping us.
Right.
So to be able to ask a question like that unlocks our own wisdom and answer. It's like, well, if I don't always check what everybody else is thinking, then I'm going to get the rug pulled out from under me again. It's like, well, can I really know that to be true?
Right.
And I was like, no. And well, how is it working for me right now? Well, I'm less authentic. I'm less myself. So we can have this compassionate lens, but to go back to, that kind of redemptive love, to go back to meet those parts of us, ironically helps us feel more courageous, more open-hearted, more open-minded, more integrated and authentic. And I imagine some of the work that you've done with journaling, either for yourself or with students in your workshops, has helped them reclaim parts of themselves. Is there a story of yours or a student that you want to share that's
The first one that popped to mind. So when the pandemic hit, I created a 30-day journaling challenge because suddenly here we were locked inside of our homes.
Bless you.
And so much uncertainty, fear, and change.
Yep.
And so it was called Journal with Your Feelings. 30 days, 40,000 people signed up in 24 hours through one Instagram post.
Wow.
Shock of my life.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, okay, people really need this. And I mean, everyone was so engaged in the journey, going deeper, peeling back the layers. And at the end of it, a woman reached out to me and said that process had me realize I'm gay.
Oh, wow.
And I came out to my friends and family, and I actually told, someone who I'm interested in, and they don't feel the same way, but I'm just so glad that I honored myself and spoke my truth.
Wow.
So I don't know specifically which prompts led to, which moment of revelation, but I know that, spending a month sitting with her feelings, allowing herself to be honest on the page led to this momentous life revelation.
Yeah. And I really think that the pandemic had us get confronted with not distracting and some of our big life choices. Yeah. And to just look at okay, I think it was a spiritual revolution. I think, a lot of people used it as, okay, let me actually now do the work.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for that sense of it. And, I think suffering has an intelligence in it. And, I think the more people have tools to navigate their life, the better the world is. That's why I'm a huge stand for doing this work and just to make it accessible to people. And I know you live this way, but the more we do this, the less of those bombs have to go off in our life because we continue to listen and to be gentle with ourselves in the journey. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, the pandemic.
I was
like, I don't think I'm supposed to be in this marriage.
Oh, that was that time.
That was that time.
Oh.
That was when there were no more distractions.
Yeah.
And so I was forced to honestly face the reality of my situation.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wonder how many babies and divorces happened during the pandemic.
Me too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm curious now, because I've gotten to know you since you've really reclaimed yourself in a deep way, and you express yourself so beautifully. I'm curious, what would you share with somebody as a small step to learn how to authentically express themselves? Because, and it could be journaling or a certain thing, but I experience you being so eloquent with your words. And I think, again, women, and, I know men listen to this, and gender nonconforming, all people have, especially women, have something around expressing and having a voice and being seen in that. Is there anything that has supported you in the journey?
I mean, I don't mean to keep saying the journaling thing, but when I can get my truth out on the page, then I know my truth. Anytime I'm struggling with my words, I can't find my words, it's because I haven't had a moment to actually hear myself and connect with myself and know myself.
Do you journal daily?
Almost.
Okay.
Yeah. Almost every day. And sometimes it isn't even, it's just sitting with myself and being quiet. But it's really the pen to paper is like, okay, that I get clarity. That is my truth. That is what's aligned. And then, this is the message that I really want to share. And, all my book, Choose Wonderful Worry, came through journaling. The idea and the epiphany. Oh yeah. Ooh, I like that framing.
Yeah.
And so it can also be this creative place too. But I find that if it's my alignment tool. Once I'm aligned there, then I can be a vessel. Then I can show up and know that whatever's in the way that would not allow me to speak from truth has been expressed. It's pushed away.
Yeah. That's
not
beautiful.
Pushed away, but it's honored.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really encouraged to journal more.
Yeah.
One of the things I want to do from this conversation is to remember stories that happen in my life or clients' lives, to put it on paper, because then I can share it more readily.
Yes.
I think so many of us have profound stories that happen in our lives, and we just keep moving on without taking that sacred pause to really deepen in it and reflect on it. But also just to journal, having a safe space just to write out and reflect on what am I actually feeling and going through right now.
Yeah. And then I'm a writer. So I'm also taking these experiences and stories, and I am packaging them in story form so that they can be consumed. Yeah. So it's both the internal process of alignment, and then my work being, okay, now how do I tell this story?
From this lens to serve others too. Yeah. But I love that you start with yourself.
Yes.
Because I think a lot of people, if they don't feel integrated integrated. They're like, I want to help others, but they're really trying to help themselves through others.
Yeah.
And what I hear you do is that you chose wonder over worry for yourself. You were being initiated into this topic that you then embodied and then can share from there. Exactly. And then your life gets better. You are an embodiment of it. And people can also feel the work that you've done, not just what you're saying.
Yeah, which is, I think, is important because around service, sometimes we are, how can I serve others? But sometimes we actually forget ourselves in that process. And so our creation almost lacks this embodiment or lacks this, I really actually deeply care about this message. And it's very meaningful to me because I've experienced it, been through it, I know it. And so I do think, service is, yes, embodying it and knowing it yourself, but it's also, how can I serve from a place of my own wisdom?
Yeah.
How can I serve from a place of deep meaning and importance to me?
Yeah. And it reminds me that I know the 4 things that help people create change, in my biased opinion, is doing the inner work for sure. I think that's 80% of the game. Outer results a reflection of the inner work. And so doing some kind of embodiment or journaling or feeling or mindset, any kind of inner work. Then also just being in community. Like you said, 40,000 people jumped on it. Yeah. Having people that are also mirroring to us what we value is really helpful to create a new narrative, to normalize it, to know that you're safe in this new group. Also, I think because evolutionarily speaking, then we're safe in tribe and some part of our nervous system settles. But then taking personal responsibility for our lives. I think when we blame, when we push something outside of ourselves, we literally throw the key away. We lock ourselves in the room and throw our key away. So having personal responsibility, doing the inner work, having community, and also just taking aligned and consistent action. Yeah. So and I love that a lot of the work that you're doing is also, okay, how do I live this in the world? So then it's balanced. It's not just like, for me, a real healing is a change of behavior. So how do I ground this into the world so that I actually change from this? So as people are listening to this episode, I just want to encourage you to think, what can I do differently from this episode? Maybe it's sitting with a feeling and just journaling the prompt of, what do you want me to know? I'm fear. What do you want me to know? Or cultivating a writing practice, something. But I know we could just dive in so much, and I love you, and I know that we're going to, and I want to make sure people know how to get your book and stay in touch. Can you share that with us?
Sure. AmberRae.com is my website. Yeah. Amber.rae.com. On Instagram, I'm Hey Amber Rae. I share all the things there.
So good.
Those are the 2 main places.
Yeah.
Also I wanted to give a 10% off code for your community.
Yes.
Which we name the code Alyssa Love or Healing Love.
Yeah. Let's call it Alyssa Love.
Alyssa Love.
Yeah.
Alyssa Love will be a code for your community to get 10% off the Feelings Journal, which you can also find at amberrae.com.
Amazing. I love you, sister.
I love you.
Thank you for being here.
This was so fun.
It's so good.
And thank you for my mini therapy session.
Yeah. Anytime. Thank you so much for doing this work that changes the world, starting with yourself. It truly does make a difference. And if you're finding value in this podcast, a cost-free way to support us is by leaving an up to 5-star review. It does mean the world to us. And as a thank you gift, we're going to send you one of the most powerful tools that you will ever discover. You're going to get behind the scenes access showing you how to live into your full potential without letting fear hold you back from stepping into your dreams. Just head over to Apple Podcast or Spotify and leave a review now. You can take a screenshot before hitting submit and then go to alyssanobriga.com/podcast to upload it. And make sure to have your automatic downloads turned on wherever you listen so you don't miss any of the upcoming episodes. I have so much magic I can't wait to share with you. And you can find all this information in the show notes below. But lastly, if you're on Instagram, I love connecting and hearing from you. So come on over and say hello. I'm at Alyssa Nobriga. Thank you again for being here. I cannot wait to share more with you.